The last 40 years, and I have my special guest. She is my feature author of the month of February, and none other than Miss Bridget Cook-Burch. Welcome, Miss Bridget, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yeah, I'm excited to be on here, Daniel. You're always a wonder and a joy to be able to visit with.
Thank
So,
you.
yes, I am a New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, but my favorite thing is to help people to express their own stories, to really be able to get their words out on a page and to understand just how impactful that can be, to reflect upon the past and to create a better future. That's my favorite thing.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Bridget. My feature author of the month of February, New York Times and Wall Street Journal, best-selling author, speaker, as well as a trainer. Thank you. So, Miss Bridget, achieving a bestseller on both New York Times and Wall Street list is a great fit. Did you have a distinct strategies for each list, or did one success organically fuel the other?
Well, thank you for asking because it's not an easy thing to hit the New York Times bestsellers list. And the Wall Street Journal has different things going on now, but that was another one that was a difficult list in order to reach. And what really worked well in this case, it was with The Witness Wore Red with Rebecca Musser,
Hmm.
and had so much to do with the story. And it also had to do with the fact because, she was asked to be on several different major network television shows. And she chose Dateline because they were going to do a 2-hour special and they were going to really take good care of her. And she grew to care about the producers and grew to trust them. And they did a fabulous job, and it became the number one um, most watched show on a Friday night on primetime television. And then when they reintroduced that 2-hour special several months later, they usually didn't do reruns. It hit number one, um, it on the number one watched special that particular weekend too, and it also hit the New York Times again. So the the publicity was very much a major effect of reading, being able to reach those levels. And so, Rebecca did not pour hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars into some sort of program or anything like that. Instead, she just told the truth about her story, which is so impeccable and so incredible. And I was very honored to be able to walk that path with her.
When your book hit those lists, Miss Bridget, what was the single most surprising, chaotic, or delightful thing happening behind the scenes that readers would never guess?
Well, I think one of the things that was very cool because we weren't expecting this. It was a beautiful result of a lot of work that Rebecca had done, a lot of deep inner soul work, as well as showing up for her people. I think it's important to note where she came from. She was the 19th wife of 65 women who was in our country. Um, and she was able to help put a prophet pedophile behind bars for life plus 20 years. And again, it took an extraordinary amount of courage, and she had to escape that climate in the first place and then have enough courage to speak out again so that she could save young girls, those that were the faceless and the voiceless. And she chose to stand for that. So the story itself was very remarkable, but she wasn't expecting this. And there were two things I remember happening is when she'd gone back to do some filming in New York, in addition to the filming we'd done. I just was behind the scenes getting to help her and to watch the professionals do their incredible work. And then she went to New York to film some other morning television shows, and we started getting in this news. And one of the things that was so fun was just a personal call with her, and the other was, when we celebrated and we were both shocked. And the second thing was a mutual friend of ours had been in an airport, and it showed like number 4 in the New York Times bestsellers list. It showed number 4 on that particular day. And, she was able to take a picture and she put it on her social media and she sent it to us. And that was really, really special. I would say, Daniel, that a lot of the things that people don't know behind the scenes of what seems like huge commercial success is if you have a really well written book that is honest and genuine and comes from the heart and is about impacting your readers, are the many ripple effects that it has. And one of the ripple effects that Rebecca shared with me was there were a family of young girls that were growing up in the FLDS, and that meant that they were destined for child marriage, or marriage to, as second, third, or 10th wives to someone that they wouldn't have dated, didn't know if they loved, wouldn't know if they loved, would have to compete in a polygamous situation. And they took a picture of themselves because of her book and the ability to read the truth of what was going on behind the scenes. They sent Rebecca a special message as well as a photograph. And instead of them being in prairie dresses with a poof in their hair and, pretend smiles on their faces. They had genuine smiles on their faces and earrings and purple hair and, just being able to express their own personalities and be their own women and with their own choices. So that was one of the most beautiful stories that, came across. And there were hundreds, she got hundreds, maybe thousands of people remarking on what that story did for them.
Yes, Miss Bridget, and thank you so much for sharing that to the world. That's really, truly inspiring. Now that you have the best-selling author prefix permanently attached to your name, how has it changed the way you approach new project? Is it liberating, or does it add a new kind of pressure?
Always, Daniel, there's new kinds of pressure. There just always is. I think when you care about people and stories, there's a level of excellence that you want to reach. And, my second book came out on Oprah in a really big way. And that one hit national bestseller. And there were things that were going on in the publishing industry and with the publisher. We probably would have been able to hit New York Times on that one, but it was too small of a publisher at the time. But I will tell you, I felt a lot of pressure from that book to Rebecca's book, and especially because I knew it was going to affect so many people and their belief systems. So we wanted to do it in a way that didn't put anyone down, but just told the truth of Rebecca's story, and then also told the truth of this organized crime unit in the name of God. And so there was a lot of pressure on that one. And then when it came to new books and new things, it was like, well, gosh, how do I top that? Um, but every book has its glories. Every book, every story has the audience it's meant to impact and the ability to touch numerous lives when it's told really well. And so I do my best to have a level of excellence. And that's also why I became a publisher, because there were a lot of stories that were being written in the world, and some of them couldn't find a place. They couldn't find a traditional publisher. Traditional publishing's been, going through a lot of major transitions in the last 10 years. And, sometimes they just couldn't find a great place for their story. And so I love being able to have a publishing house that shares transformational stories. And the authors that are attracted to that publishing house, they and their stories, they knock my socks off. I'm just blown away all the time. So I love to be able to help them with those stories.
Miss Bridget, let's talk about on speaking and training. How does the energy and immediate feedback of the stage influence the solitary, deliberate work of writing a book and vice versa?
Hmm. That's really a great question, Daniel. You always have the best questions.
Thank
I
you.
would say, when you're writing a book, it's really important to think about one person who would be your reader so you can have an intimate conversation, because otherwise, we want everyone to read our book. We want everyone to
Hmm.
purchase our book, and then we end up writing to everyone and the message gets so muddy. It's not clear at all. So if we can write to one person and be targeted, that's when all this beautiful magic happens. And I really think that the authors that I coach and train, and when I go to speak, I think about one person in the audience who might need to hear what I have to share for that evening or that day's event. And I just did one on Saturday. It was really fun. And there were a number of people afterwards who came up and said, "This is exactly what I needed. Thank you so much for what you had to share." 'Cause we did storytelling and principles, then we had experiential exercises, and we had Mustang horses to welcome in the year of the horse. So it was an extraordinary event, and it was different than a lot of events I do, but I love doing this particular event every year to bring in brand new energy. And of course, it's all about transformation. So I love it. But
Hmm.
to your question, what's the difference? It is when you have an audience that's in a room, there's an energy to it. There's this combined audience, but um, everyone together makes up a certain, how shall I say this, like a collective energy. And you can look into the eyes of who you are speaking to, and you can tell if you're reaching them or not. Like you can tell them if a joke just went totally flat, or yeah, or you can
Hmm.
see the tears in their eyes, or the
Hmm.
Kleenex is coming out when something really deeply affected them, and you're like, "Okay, I'm on track. Something's hitting home here." And so you can stay with that same vein of energy, and, bring up the room out of tears, but knowing that you're reaching someone. And so, for me, sometimes it's easier to speak to an audience than it is to write, just because my ego can get in the way when I'm writing. And then I go back to, who's this person that's hurting that I have a solution for? What are the things that keep them up at night, Daniel? What are their pains? What are their dreams? What are their greatest desires? Where do they feel stuck? Where can this book serve them? And it doesn't even matter what kind of book it is. It might entertain, it might inspire, but my biggest thing beyond motivation is that transformation. And so I like to think of that one particular reader and how can I assist them to find answers inside of themselves that they might be able to find truth that transforms their lives. And so yeah, for me it's a bigger struggle.
Miss Bridget, as a professional speaker, you've seen every kind of audience. What most common quiet mistake you see other thought leaders make when they take the stage?
Well, one of the things, thank you. One of the
You're
things
welcome.
is when they first get on, a lot of times new speakers, they'll start with chit chat. They'll wanna
Yes.
thank people and do those kinds of things when really the audience has a limited amount of attention, especially in today's society, and they just wanna be drawn in right away. So
Yes.
they wanna know who you are, what you're about, and they wanna be compelled by story immediately. So I think that's one of the mistakes that I see people make. I think another one is to just tell them everything that they should do, and, they make the mistake of being preachy rather than engaging and being participatory, asking them questions to think about in their own lives. And so that's another mistake I see people just kind of preaching at someone rather than how do I reach their heart and soul and mind, you know?
Mhm.
So those are 2 big, big ones.
In your work as a trainer, what is the one measurable shift or aha moment you are most obsessed with creating for your clients?
Mm. For my clients as a trainer, I think it is that moment when I'm telling a story and then tying it to a principle
Mm.
that all of a sudden their eyes get wide and you see that even though the story is about someone else and they think at first the principle is likely about someone else, all of a sudden you see them go, oh, because they
Mhm.
realize there's some correlation to something that's going on in their own lives, and they just get their own big aha. That's my
Mm.
favorite part.
Definitely. So, from the content to change, Miss Bridget, your book provides the what. Your speaking and training provide the how. How do you bridge that gap to ensure people don't just consume your idea, but actually implement them?
Well, I have, different ways of doing that because, I when I ghostwrite or co-author, I write stories meant to reach specific audiences. When I'm coaching and training, other people to be their best author, their best speaker self. Um, I love to bring them to that point of self-discovery, kinda similar I was talking
Hmm.
about with the audience, but where they have more compassion for who they used to be, and they have more excitement for who they are becoming. Because in really great storytelling, we're not afraid to go deep with our audience. We're not afraid to say, how hurtful something might have been, how dark the dark night of the soul could have been, right? But then in really good storytelling, we take them equally as high. And
Hmm.
that means that it doesn't mean that you pretend something that's not real or aggrandize something. It's giving credit where it's due in terms of your rise as an author. So here's where your dark night of the soul was, but how did you get out of that dark night? Where was it that you chose to get out of the dark cave anyway? Resume the battle and do your very best. Now 100% committed, still unsure about your own skill set, still, not feeling very heroic, but determined and passionate to take a stand anyway. And when they witness that within themselves, like this rise, for a lot of people, it's the first time that they've learned not to play small. For a lot of people, it's the first time that they've recognized, wow, I really have done some tremendous things, overcome tremendous obstacles. I really have earned the right to be this author and also to be able to share with other people because now I have something that I want to gift others with. So they don't have to have as much pain or sorrow, or so they know they're not alone, or so they can be inspired and transformed.
The vulnerability balance, Miss Bridget, it's medium like book, speed, training requires a different type of vulnerability. How do you decide what deeply personal story belong in a book versus a live talk or versus a closed door session?
Oh, fantastic question, Daniel. And there
Thank you.
actually is a lot going into that. In a book, you have a longer format. You're
Mhm.
able to tell more incredible stories. You're able to share inner thoughts. You're able to show motivations behind things, reactions to situations and circumstances. So you have this elongated runway for the book to really fly, for it to take off and really hit the reader. You have to catch them right at the very front with a hook, just like with a speech, but you also have more time to explain yourself. In a speech, there is an importance to go vulnerable, but not so vulnerable because you have a short, much shorter period of time. You need to make sure that balance of vulnerability where you can go deep, that you still have time to share your rise, and also it depends on who the audience is. You know, you could have an author who is, I've got one right now. He's really incredible, and he had um, some pretty intense spiritual experiences that helped to get him off drugs, heal his body, do amazing things. And he could speak to recovering addicts. He could speak to spiritual or religious faith audiences. He could speak as an inspiring keynote because of his story. Really incredible. And so he'll have a signature story. We're working on it right now, but it also depends on who he's speaking to. So on an inspiring stage full of, say, lots of CEOs or entrepreneurs, he would probably be a little less real and raw, except about a particular moment. And he would be raw and real in that moment so that he can also share that high. But in a recovery audience, there would be a deeper amount of vulnerability because that's what recovering um, addicts and others need to hear, is to know that someone else is a real live person who's had multiple foibles, lots of setbacks, two steps forward, sometimes four steps back, but that they've been able to get out. And so thinking about who your audience is. And sometimes there are things, Daniel, not meant for a book and
Mhm.
not meant for a stage, but behind closed doors can change someone's life. Sometimes there's personal experiences or details. There's often things that might involve another person that in your book, you just simply would not mention them or not throw another person under the bus. But in a private setting, you might say, This is what I was facing and this is how hard it was for me. So I understand where you're coming from. And these are some of the lessons that I learned." And you would tell them things you wouldn't say on a stage or in a book.
Interesting and empowering answer, Miss Bridget. So, what's piece of a common advice for authors, speakers, or trainers that you have found to be completely wrong or counterproductive based on your experience?
Oh, there's quite a bit just because we're all human and make mistakes. I think there's more good advice out there than bad advice. I will say this, with the adoption of AI, there's a lot of people who are saying, "Just let AI write your book."
Mhm.
And, I think that is the most faulty piece of advice that's out there. I feel like, AI is getting better and better, and it has some remarkable qualities and wonderful things, but it can never fully capture your heart and soul and your own unique author's voice. And so, there's an old saying, that people joke about, like, "Write drunk and edit sober," and, I don't write drunk. But but I would not use AI to write your story. I think you can use it to edit. I think you can ask it, "How could I put more humor in this particular, paragraph because it's really too low for this section of the book?" Or How could I have a more compelling hook? There's definitely things that you can use it for, but write it from your heart and soul and head, and then see if you're bound and determined to use AI, see how it might help you make it even better, but don't let it be the dictator of your own story.
Yes, definitely. And Miss Bridget, legacy beyond list. If we fast forward 10 years and people are no longer thinking about the bestseller list, but about the impact of your work, what do you hope that conversation sounds like?
Hmm. I hope the conversation sounds like, um, I'm glad we met. You helped to start me on a wonderful life trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm glad to know you because we've become wonderful friends. I hope it sounds like, um, I did some intense learning during that time, and I've been able to apply it in business and my relationships in life. And I really hope that it looks like, um, that they're telling me all about the impact they're making on the planet, that that ripple just continues, and the people that they're helping and inspiring in what they're doing.
Yes, definitely, Miss Bridget. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in its third season, and my book 101 review sixth season this year, comedy 101 third season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well, geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 fourth season, science 101, sex 101 in third season, and my baby podcast, trivia 101, mental health 101, law 101, entrepreneurship 101, and of course, motivation 101. Now, please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Bridget, with these monumental achievements unlocked, how do you personally define success for your next big project? What metrics or feelings matter to you now?
Hmm, another great question to end with. Thank you, Daniel.
You're
Um,
welcome.
I would say that my definition of success has changed and evolved through the years. Now I look equally at personal growth and development and self mastery that the author is learning at the same time as the incredible opportunities and the doors that are opening for them as an author. And I like to see that both of those things are taking place.
Ms. Bridget, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. People, my feature author of the month of February, New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, speaker, trainer. And thank you so much for, well, empowering answer, Ms. Bridget. So can you please invite our listeners to support your books, your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Well, thank you. If you want to connect, you can go to yourinspiredstory.com and just check out the books that I have written and that are being published. And if you have your own story, I invite you to go to the Inspired Writers Retreat. We do them twice a year, small groups, and I get to find out more about you and your story.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Bridget Cook-Burch, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to rise, more and more empowering books, for sure, will publish. So, Miss Bridget, thank you so much for your time.
Mm. Thank you, Daniel. It was extraordinary as always.
Thank you. And I have one more question. Sorry. I have one more question, Miss Bridget. So let's say If you could go back in time and give one piece of advice of yourself the day before you started writing, what would it be?
Mm. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just make sure you get back up after making them and do better.
Yes, I like that. Don't afraid to commit mistake, people, because mistake will make you better in the process. Miss Bridget, will you be my guest to all my podcasts? Please do come over and over and over and let's talk about things that under the sun. Let's empower people all over the world through your knowledge and wisdom. Again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Take good care, Daniel.
Monica people, see you soon.